World War II was full of shadows and secrets, and somewhere in that darkness, Garbo emerged, a man whose deception skills tipped the balance against Hitler himself. He didn't just gather intelligence, he spun a web of lies that helped the Allies win. Hey there, story lovers. Welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, your cozy corner for captivating tales. I'm your host, Alejandra, as always, and today we are talking about Garbo, the spy that defeated Hitler and his strange and fascinating life, especially his time in Lisbon. And because of this, I have to give a huge shout out to Vic Echegoyen for this recommendation. Vic is an award winning writer and writes historical novels about characters that are amazing, and she told me about Garbo, and I was fascinating. I'm going to leave her books links down below in the description, and just be sure that her books are amazing. But before we start, I would like to ask you for your support and click on the follow or the subscribe button if you're hearing this episode on YouTube or any podcast platform. I would really appreciate that, and thank you for the lovely reviews that we have been leaving on the podcast, and it means the world to me. So let's get started. Lisbon in Portugal. The city where its winding streets and odd mix for danger and glamour became the stage for some of its wildest schemes. Garbo used Lisbon as a kind of a headquarters. He ran and elaborated misinformation campaigns right under everybody's nose. The city geography, its hills, its hidden corners, offered both headaches and opportunities for spies like him. Lisbon is called the Seven Hills City. We'll check on some of the real places he haunted, safe houses, meeting spots, all those little pieces of Lisbon that shape his covered world. It's a look behind the curtain at the city's role in the Secret War. But who was Garbo? Garbo was a master spy. Garbo was just like he wasn't like any other spy. He pulled off some of the wildest trick in the book, and he outsmarted the Nazis with a sheer nerve and creative thinking. His early life, his drive, and the weird path that led him to the world of espionage. But I'm going to tell you about this. So, our Garbo was born Juan Pujol Garcia in Barcelona, Spain. Garbo grew up in a pretty humble circumstances. He loved stories of adventure and got hooked on spy tales from books and movies. After the Spanish Civil War, things shifted for him. He hated fascism and wanted to fight it. He realized that trickery and deception could be powerful weapons, and that idea stuck with him. In the late 1930s, Garbo landed in Britain. He tried to join British intelligence, but they turned him down. He didn't let that stop him, though. He started spying on his own, inventing fake identities and a whole network of imaginary agents in Spain. Eventually, MI5 caught on and backed him up. His reports, packed with tales and clever twists, became a big deal for the Allies. Why did he pick the name Garbo? He picked the name Garbo for himself, with a nod of flair for drama and trickery. Sometimes he used other codes like Alfred, Cicero, depending on who he was dealing with. He spun this elaborated web of fake agents, convincing the Nazis that the Allies were planning attacks on the wrong places. His lies played a key part on the D-Day deception. And we've got to admit that guy has a lot of style. He was actually cute. And Garbo's knack for making up believable stories made him a legend. He tricked the enemy with reports so convincing that even the highest Nazi officials bought them. Juan Pujol, aka Garbo, became a master of fooling the Nazis. He didn't just pass along fake intel. He built a whole alternate reality that threw off Hitler's plans. Operation Fortitude was the biggest one. Garbo played a starring role, feeding the Nazis the story that the D-Day landings would happen at the Pas de Calais, not in Normandy. He sent out fake radio messages and invented entire armies on paper. The Germans bought it, and Hitler kept his best troops in the wrong place. Garbo's network was a mix of real and imaginary agents. Each one passed along carefully crafted lies. He blended truth and fiction so well that German intelligence couldn't tell what was real. This tangled web kept the Nazis guessing, and it was exactly what the Allies needed. And because of Garbo's deception, the Germans were nowhere in Normandy. They were all beefed up in the defenses of Pas de Calais, and it left Normandy vulnerable. So when D-Day hit, the Allies met less resistance than it was expected. And Garbo's lies saved lives and helped the invasion succeed. This kind of impact is what most spies dream about. But what about, let's get before D-Day? During the war, and talking about Lisbon was crawling with spies. I don't know if you know this. And it's fascinating because I have lived Lisbon for so long. And its location and weirdly neutral vibes made it the perfect place for secret deals and double crosses. All very fascinating, all very 007. Lisbon sat between Europe and the Americas. Okay, that's why it was chosen. It was in the middle. And it was neutral, making it crossroads for anyone moving people, secrets across borders. Spies could slip in and out with a surprising ease. Because of Portugal's neutrality, it meant that agents from all sides could operate without having too much heat. They weren't watched, they weren't followed. The city attracted a wild mix of operatives, each trying to outsmart the others. Cafes and hotels became unofficial headquarters for secret meetings, and the city's atmosphere practically invited the intrigue and the drama. But how was the political climate in Lisbon during the World War II? Lisbon politics were a tightrope act. Salazar kept Portugal neutral, which all led to all sorts of foreign agents hanging around, even if it was a dictatorship. The government tolerated a weird blend of spies and diplomats, from outside, of course, not the inside. Information flowed everywhere, and you never really knew who was working with whom. Allied and Axis agents rubbed shoulders in the city cafes and bars. Nobody knew each other. They suspected. The streets buzzed with rumors, and everyone seemed to have a secret agenda. Garbo didn't just pass through Lisbon. He left his mark on several spots around the city, and these places became part of his story and the larger world of wartime espionage. We have a very known hotel called Hotel Avenida de Palis, and it's a classic old-school hotel where Garbo spent time. It was his central location, and it was perfect for secret meetings. He met contacts there, swapped information, and used the hotel's elegant setting to blend in with diplomats and VIPs. The place still oozes history, and I can vouch for that. I've been there. Rocio Square, or Praça do Rocio, sits right in the heart of Lisbon. It's always been a busy gathering spot, a very historical place, actually. Garbo used the crowds as cover, watching people and gathering intel. The cafes and the fountains gave him plenty of excuses to hang around unnoticed. Then we have Café Martinho da Arcada. It's one of the city's oldest cafes, and it has literally a good vibe. Garbo liked its quiet corners for meetings. These cafes, old wood and outdoor seating, make it feel both public and private. He would talk with informants without drawing attention. Over the years, all sorts of famous people have stopped by and added to its mystique. And how old is this cafe, for example? Let me just tell you that it was built after the reconstruction of Lisbon from the earthquake of 1755. This cafe, the real cafe, it's still there. You can actually go there and have dinner, lunch, cafe only. And it's been there since 1782. It's a wonderful place if you're coming to Lisbon. And of course, we need to talk about Lisbon Harbor, which was a hotbed of activity during the war. Garbo kept an eye on the docks, watching ships and gathering info on troops' movement. The noise and the chaos of the port made it easy to blend in. Even now, you can sense the history in the air down by the water. Garbo had to get creative in Lisbon and use several different kinds of espionage techniques. He used everything from invisible ink to sneaky radio tricks to get his messages out. And now you're thinking about the invisible ink with lemon. No. Invisible ink was one of his go-to moves. He'd write out important info, knowing only someone with the right chemicals could reveal it. He sent these messages through regular mail or dropped them at safe spots. Sometimes he used codes and ciphers just to keep things extra confusing for anyone snooping around. He was smart. And radios? Radios were a game changer for Garbo. He used small, portable sets to send updates fast, much quicker than waiting for a letter. Picked up secure frequencies and kept an ear on enemy chatter. By analyzing radio traffic, he could tweak his reports and stay one step ahead. Not bad for a guy making it up as he went along. Lisbon brought together all kinds of players in the spy game. Garbo's meeting with both Allied and Axis agents were the lifeblood of his operations. He actually infiltrated on the Axis. Garbo's British connections were crucial, and talking about the Allied contacts. He met with MI6 agents and other intelligent folks, often in cafes at the Hotel Avenida Palace. He kept things low-key, using spots like Príncipe Real area for discreet exchanges. These meetings helped me fine-tune his tactics and keep the Allies always on the loop. Thanks to these contacts, Garbo fed the Germans a steady diet of lies. His ability to earn trust made all the difference. But what about his connections to Axis? Garbo actually mingled with German operatives, usually in the busy areas like Baixa, which is the downtown, and the Chiado district, also in downtown. He had to act the part, always careful not to blow his cover. He played both sides, gathering intel and then flipping it over to the Allies. The trick was to seem loyal enough that the Germans kept talking. This balancing act kept both sides very convinced, and it was risky. But it was what made Garbo such a standout in the world of espionage. Garbo, the legendary spy, left a mark on the world of intelligence. His deceptions and clever moves still echo on how modern espionage works. People keep finding inspiration in his story, and you see him influence pop up in books, films, and even podcasts. Hello? He's not just a historical figure, he's just becoming a symbol. Back in World War II, Garbo shook up intelligence gathering. He came up with deception tactics that demanded careful planning and nerves of steel. He spun false histories and misinformation, as we know, tricking enemy forces more than once, and agencies, still today, look at his work for inspiration when planning operations. Techniques like strategic deception or information warfare pretty much owe their roots to him. Learning about his methods gives intelligence officers a leg up when designing missions. Almost 100 years after him doing this, can you believe it? And people still debate the ethics of what he did. Was all the deception justified? His legacy isn't just about clever tricks, it's about sparking conversation on what's right and wrong on the world of spies. People's life has shown up everywhere. Movies, books, podcasts, you name it. The idea of double agent walking on a tightrope between danger and wit grabs people's attention. Bloggers and history buffs love telling his story and breaking down his tactics and the impact that he had. He's become some sort of an icon for those who admire cleverness and a bit of daring. And honestly, the fascination doesn't stop there. Documentaries, merchandise, and even tours kept his story alive, blending history with a bit of pop culture flair. And that kind of tour, I'm going to leave it down below on the description. If you're in Lisbon, you need to go to this tour. And it was because of this tour that I know about Garbo. Thanks, Vic. Checking out Lisbon through Garbo's lens is a trip for anyone curious about World War II espionage. The city still holds traces of his shadowy adventures. He spent some intense days here, and certain landmarks played a big part in his life as a spy. It's wild to think how these places, once buzzed with secret meetings and coded messages, still are up to date. And talking about walking tours through Lisbon, let you step right into Garbo's world. Its guides will point you out to the exact spots where he made his moves. I'm going to share a couple of images on Instagram. They share stories that connect the city's lively streets from Garbo's secret plans, and you start to see Lisbon in a whole new light. I know that I did. Some of the favorite stops of these tours is, for example, Café A Brasileira, which is a classic haunt for spies and agents back in the day and has a huge and very good coffee. And Rua Augusta Arch, which is perfect to keeping an eye on ships and passing messages. And it's a cool mix of daily life and spy drama. So people love learning how Garbo's adventures fit right into the city's history. Plenty of spots from Garbo's eras still stands in Lisbon, of course, and they're a reminder of city's roles in the wartime intrigue. Lisbon wasn't attacked in the World War II, that's why these places are still intact. And some key places to check out is, for example, the National Museum of Contemporary Art, in which some hosts exhibit the echo of Garbo's time, and the Tejo River waterfront, and it was once a spot for secret meetings and signals. Visiting these places, you get a sense of how Garbo moved through the city. Each landmark brings its world a little closer to you, and you can almost picture the covert operations happening at Lisbon as he carried around them. Now, if you are thinking about exploring Garbos at Lisbon, a bit of planning goes along the way, of course, and knowing when and where to do is going to make your trip smoother. Lisbon is a very touristic place nowadays, and it has changed its environment, but the majority of places are still there that you can see. Some were converted to other hotels, from, for example, an hotel to a Hard Rock Cafe, something like that, but it's still the place, so it's still the area and even the architecture itself. And the best time to visit the Garbo spots or Lisbon, it's always between spring and autumn, March to May, and September to November. And honestly, the best times to visit is anywhere. The weather is, the majority is always pleasant, like 80% sunny. So walking tours feel much more enjoyable. And some of the areas that I can point it out personally is, for example, Cais do Sodré, which is a lively neighborhood with a lot of stories to tell. Not only Garbos, and Chiado, of course, in downtown, famous for its coffees and that very Portuguese French vibe cafe. And Garbo was the spy who played the key role in deceiving the Nazis. His figure itself remains an intrigue. His actions helped to change the course of World War II, and many aspects of his life are still shrouded in mystery. Even with so much written with his operations, people still wonder what his motivations and methods were. And even though he worked out at key spots in Lisbon, and cafes and hotels were buzzed with spies and journalists, it makes it easier for him to blend past along this information. But what about Garbo itself, his life? I couldn't find much. I did find a couple of them, and I'm going to show him here on the visual episode if you're watching this on Spotify or a video or on YouTube. But I could only gather a couple of pieces. He was a spy after all. And all the busy atmosphere to give him a cover and gather his intelligence. It's honestly wild to think about where he stayed and how he stayed under the radar for so long. He put so much effort into creating a small screen that he left his enemies guessing. And among spies, Garbo is still a legend. His story still draws both admiration, curiosity. Maybe we'll never actually have the whole truth, and I think it makes more fascinating. And this was today's episode, guys. I hope you liked it, and I love knowing and researching more about Garbo of what I could find, and all his adventures. And I love everything spies, don't you guys think? And comment below and share your thoughts. It's always nice to hear from you guys, and I promise that I have more episodes ready for you here weekly. I might be thinking about doing it bi-weekly and having more episodes ready for you, but let's just wait. And thank you for listening. And please remember that if you'd like to send your stories or special topics to be shared in the next episodes, please send it to the storytellingpodcast 8080@gmail.com or follow me on social media. And guys, we have a new IG where I'm going to share not only about the podcast and the videos, but also the pictures that I have been finding while I do my research for the podcast. And the IG is the Storytelling Podcast Official. And before you go, if you haven't done that already, I would love you for you to click on the follow or subscribe button and see you on the next episode.